So, Pastor David Gates has shared a shocking video that is receiving many comments from Adventists around the globe. In the video, he shared how he was confronted by some top leaders of the church, telling him to shut down his ministry. Friends, so let's go ahead and listen to what Pastor David Gates actually shared with all Seventh-day Adventists around the globe concerning how he was confronted, particularly by Pastor Ted Wilson. Let's listen.
Unfortunately, 13 years ago, the General Conference, Ted Wilson sent the Vice President to talk to us with the Secretary of the GC, and they asked us to close all our television networks. No. And I said, but why? I said, 80% of the baptisms in Bolivia come through our television network. The fruits are good. He said, if you don't close them down, we're going to blacklist you worldwide. And I said, but I thought you were coming here so we could work together. They said, we didn't come to work together. We came here for you to obey us. And I said, but I have a board too. I have 4 ordained ministers. I have the retired president of OCI, the retired president of Beaton Valley, the retired president of Lorebrook Academy, my father, myself, and an engineer from 3ABN on our board. And I said, I have to take it to the board too. But I've never heard of that. Working together means close down? And my wife stood up and said, I have a question. You said all our projects. We have orphanages, we have schools, we have medical work, all of them. Close them all down. And my wife almost had a stroke because she's in charge of the medical work. And she says, you've never been sick and no insurance. You've never had your mother die or your children die because you're not anywhere near a hospital. You don't know what those people go through. Our airplane comes, picks them up, takes them to the house, and brings them back alive. What do you know about that? And I said, calm down, sit down. But she was indignant. And so so they said, that's the only thing we will, you obey us, or else we will be we'll blacklist you.
Say why?
No, but we know why. Too much influence. And we're preaching present truth.
That's right.
And they don't want that preached. So I know why. I'm not a lay person. I've been an employee of the church all my life, and an ordained minister and administrator. So I know what's behind it. It's control. So I said, just a minute. I said, I have to ask Satan a question. What? You're going to talk to Satan? Yeah, but don't worry. I said, Satan, just a question. What do you want God's people to do? To close all of their work around the world, or to keep opening more and more and more? Thank you. Satan says, close everything. Who do you work for? I said, you're saying the same thing as Satan said. God said, go into all the world, preach the gospel, open up work to every nation, kindred, tongue, and people. You come here and say the opposite of what God is saying. So who do you work for? I was being a little sarcastic. I should have been a little more. But I was just trying to illustrate. And so finally, when the vice president, who's still there, who was still on General Conference, who was interviewing people, he said, you said something about Jesuits. I said, yeah, the Jesuits are the enemies of truth, and they're all around the world trying to stop God's work. He said, the Jesuits are not our enemies, they're our friends and counselors.
Oh, I don't think so.
Okay, I said, from now on, I will never call you pastor again. You're a traitor. You have sold us downriver. I thought you were protecting the church at the General Conference, but if the Jesuits are your friend and advisors, then I know who came and told you to say what you did there. I'm sorry, but I said, that's the truth. Anybody who's a friend of the Jesuits is an enemy of me. Enemy of God. I said, because they tried to kill me, they tried to threaten me, they tried to poison me, and I said, and then you come and say they're your friends. I'm sorry, you don't work for God anymore. And so that's what happened, and I'm still sad. They did blacklist us worldwide, and it still hurts, and it still has consequences. But you know what?
When did that happen?
13 years ago. Isn't it about 13?
Mm-hmm.
And that same day, the General Conference released a communique to all the world. David and Becky Gates are getting a divorce.
Oh.
The union president called from Bolivia and said, what in the world? Are you getting a divorce? No, we're not getting a divorce. But I got a communication from the department at the General Conference to all the world. And I said, I'm sorry, but that's a lie. And they made it up. And they couldn't find any skeletons in the closet, so they came up with that one. But remember, I don't label the church because of that problem, but there's infiltrators.
Yeah.
I don't judge the church because there's some bad people inside. That's not part of the church. Those are enemies of God that are on the inside, or that maybe they fell under the influence of bad guys. But I do not judge God's people because of it, because they're just not part of God's people. Nehemiah had the same problem. And so he had people trying to discourage him. So God's people are God's people. But God's people, let us always remember, are those that love truth and are faithful to truth. And we're going to have both groups in the church till God sees fit to clean the church. And so don't be harsh on the church just because some people are that way. Even administrators, even pastors. The majority today, the majority are of members and pastors and administrators are not on God's side. But there is some that are.
Yes.
But just remember, God's people are always a smaller group. And let us be faithful to God, to his truth, to his real church, and remember to stand up for truth regardless of the consequences. I'm only thankful to God for all the years I had. Beautiful 30 years of church work for the church. I am so thankful. I was always treated well. I was always treated almost with favoritism because I was so productive. They always wanted me. Everybody fought to have me. And so I have no bitter, ill feelings. But when I see these kind of attitudes, it hurts. But I realize it doesn't represent the church. It represents those that have infiltrated the church. So let us keep loving God, loving his truth, being loyal, Seventh-day Adventists, and then someday God will reveal who is who. Amen. And then at that point, the real Seventh Adventists, please stand up. That's a good thing.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
I will not condemn anybody here since I do not know every detail about what led to the confrontation as described by Pastor David Gates, But what I would say is that if this is true, if what Pastor David Gates is saying is the truth, then we have a long way to go as a church. He is not the only pastor that has been banned or blacklisted in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Pastor Walter Weith was banned in Germany. Pastor Conrad Vine was banned in Michigan. And some other pastors have been silenced in the SDA Church, all because they said something that some top leaders of the church did not like. But I don't think that this is the way to go as a church. Yes, I don't think that this is the way to go as a church. The silence culture must be put aside because that is the way of the world. Why do we bring this thing in a church? When Jesus Christ was on earth and when he was doing his ministry, there were some individuals that were using Jesus' name to cast out demons. But when the disciples of Jesus saw them, they wanted to stop them from using Jesus' name to cast demons. But Jesus told his disciples not to stop them because they were working for the kingdom. All right. And I want us to read that from the Bible right now. It is found in Mark chapter 9, verses 38 through to 41. Now John answered him saying, "Teacher, we saw someone who does not follow us, casting out demons in your name. And we forbade him because he does not follow us." But Jesus said, "Do not forbid him, for no one who works a miracle in my name can soon afterward speak evil of me. For he who is not against us is on our side." Verse 41, "For whoever gives you a cup of water to drink in my name, because you belong to Christ, assuredly, I say to you, he will by no means lose his reward." So I think we cannot stop anybody from doing ministry. And we should not stop anybody from doing ministry because, one, we did not call them into ministry. It is God that called them. And two, they are not working for us. Instead, They are working for the one that called them. They are working for God. So we have no rights as pastors, as church elders, as no, to stop someone or to stop anybody from doing ministry. So friends, I would like you to share your thoughts concerning what Pastor David Gates said in the video. We are not here to condemn anybody. That is why I said we are not condemning, but we are sharing thoughts on the video that is circulating on social media. You can also share your thoughts in the comment. Thanks for watching. See you next time. God bless.